teach you, but also I'm here to help you. Any problems, you come to me. Don't be afraid, day or night. Any advice, you understand me?
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the late night movie review. As you can probably make out from the intro clip, we are tonight reviewing probably the greatest sequel ever made. It's definitely in the horror genre. We're looking at Damien, Omen 2. There's very few films that a sequel is on par with the original film, and this is one of them. The film continues on from the first one. Obviously from the first one, Gregory Peck and Lee Remick adopted Damien, the son, and they're both dead now. So Damien has gone to live with cousins in America. The film starts off, I think we're back in Iraq, where we meet Bugenhagen, the guy that gave the knives to Damien's father, Robert Thorne. And he's having a discussion with a guy about a wall. They found a wall with his paintings on it. And Bugenhagen swears that amongst the paintings he's seen Damien's face. Now, it's all in the papers that Damien is still alive, and all this in the papers reported it. So Bugenhagen is shocked that he's still alive. And this guy that's with him doesn't believe him that Damien Thorne is the Antichrist. So Bugenhagen persuades him to go to see the wall, and so they make off in their sort of a little jeep towards the sort of archaeological dig. It's been dug out quite a lot, because it's like almost like they found like a whole sort of palace underground. So they sort of enter this sort of palace area, and then they go deep underground into sort of like this sort of catacomb archive area of the underground dig. And they go down there, and they see a statue of the Halls of Babylon. That's down there, and there's the wall, and Bugenhagen shines his torch on there, and then you see a picture of Damien's face with all sort of snakes on his head. So we see that, and he calls the other guy over to the wall and says to him, "Look, come and have a look, it's here." So the other guy comes over and says, "Oh my God, yeah, that is him." And then there's a big sort of rumble going on, and they decide to make a hastily exit, but then the wall and the walls collapse, and they're trapped inside. And then walls fall the other side of them, so they're trapped in like this little square bit. Now, obviously, Bugenhagen thinks this is the Antichrist doing his work, and then all sort of sand starts to come down and fills the area up where they are. So they both of them die a horrendous death of like being sort of like choked and sort of buried in sand. That must be horrendous, hideous, you know, your whole breath, you can't breathe, everything's taken away from you. I can't imagine how horrible that must be. It's a horrible death. And then we cut to back to America, and we are with we see Damien, and this is like about 6 or 7 years later, and he's sort of grown up. He's now like a teenager, and he's with his family at the family home, and him and his sort of brother, his cousin, are going to be going away to military camp. But first of all, they got to say goodbye. They say goodbye to their aunt. Now the aunt, Damien tries to say goodbye, and she's quite rude to him. She doesn't obviously like him at all, and so she sort of like really sort of blanks him off. And so he says goodbye and goes. Anyway, they make their way out to the car to go, and William Holden's character, who is like Gregory Peck's Robert's brother, who's now looking after Damien, says, "Have you both said goodbye to the aunt?" Damien says, "Well, I have," and the other lad says, "I haven't." So he goes in to say goodbye, and she tells him to look after himself. You know, don't hang around with Damien too much. She's got a sense that something's not right with Damien. You know, she sort of sensed this stuff. And they head off in a car, and they're going off to military camp. We then cut to like an evening dinner with William Holden, his wife, and the aunt all sitting down. And she has laid her cards on the table because she said that I own 29% of the company. I own this sort of thing, which is like worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And she goes, I will only give you this money if anything happens to me if you do as I say. And straight away they say, no way, not whatsoever. And what she wants the boys to be taken out of military school, and she wants them separated. She doesn't want the other boy hanging around with Damien. So they said, no, you said you can keep your money, give it to charity or whatever, I don't care. And anyway, they have a big argument, and the wife sort of has a big argument with her, and she says, look, get her out of my house. She said, don't worry, I'm going. In the morning, I'm going. Anyway, so the auntie goes up to her room, to her bed. And then obviously William Holden sort of like consoles his wife, said, look, she'll go tomorrow, don't worry. And he said, why does she hate Damien so much? She goes, I don't know. But anyway, we then cut to the sort of night time, and she's in bed, the aunt, and she wakes up and she sees a crow on the end of her bed. Now this is, in the first film, if you remember right, some of these sort of like hounds of hell were these Rottweilers. Well, in this film it's crows, and there's a crow in the end of her bed, and she sort of like has a real big panic, and she has a heart attack. And then we see her sort of like collapsing on the floor in this heart attack, and she dies. And then the bird flies out. We then cut to the next day, and we see the two lads at the military school marching across the field with all the soldiers. And then they head up towards the main part of the building where they're going to meet their new captain. And their new captain is the guy you saw in the clip at the beginning of this video. And he's sort of like trying to find out who the people are, and all he's trying to look for is find out which one's Damien, because he is a disciple from hell, just like the woman in the first one, you know, the nanny. Well, he is like the male version of that, and he's there to look out for Damien. So he's there, and he finds out which one is Damien. We then cut to a lot of stuff going on with the William Holden at his factory where he works at the building, talking about sort of business deals and stuff like this. And back at the house, his wife goes into the room and finds the aunt dead, and phones him up and says that the aunt's died, and so he's going to go back home to see what's going on there. We then cut back to the military school, and they're all outside the captain's office because he's doing a one-to-ones with them, and one of the guys there sort of slagging off sort of like the Thorns. Anyway, Damien gets up and says to him, don't talk about my father ever again. Okay, and he says, "Oh, I was just only joking. Didn't mean it." Because okay, we just don't, So anyway, he goes into the room, and that's where you see that clip at the beginning of the thing where he's now talking to the captain. He says that I'm here to help you. For anything you need, come and see me, and I'll sort it for you. So he's introduced the captain. He goes out from the room, and his cousin's having a fight with that other lad that was slagging off the Thorns, and then they get off the floor, and then Damien does some sort of mind power trick, and he's sort of like the other guy sends him crazy in his brain. He starts smashing himself against the wall and the floor and stuff like that, terrified what he's seen in Damien's eyes. So that sort of happened, and then the captain comes out and breaks it all up, and then Damien and his cousin go out. We then cut to William Holden. I think he's on his way to some sort of meeting towards the airport, and he gets interrupted by a reporter, a female reporter, who wants to interview him. Now she persuades him to let him in the car, and she goes in the car with him towards the airport, and she starts talking to him about his brother and about Bugenhagen, and that they found the skeleton of Bugenhagen, and his brother met him. And she's trying to tell him this stuff that he's in danger. He doesn't want to listen, and he pretty much stops the car, and they get her thrown out of the car. And she's saying that you're in terrible danger. You need to listen to me. Anyway, it's she doesn't get very far. Then we cut to the museum, and William Holden's wife's there with one of their friends who runs the museum, because they found all the stuff that was in the beginning, like the halls of Babylon, this war. They found it all, and so they're bringing it over to exhibition in this museum. So they're talking about it, and that female reporter turns up and tells him that he's managed to grab an interview with him. He goes off because he's got a phone call, the guy who works there, and she starts talking to his wife. "Oh, how's Damien? Well, how's Damien getting on? What's he like?" And all this sort of thing. She's sort of talking to him like that. And the guy comes back and says, "Well, don't say a word to her. Don't say a word to her. She's upset, William Holden." And it's like, don't tell her anything. Anyway, she then talks to that guy, saying, "Look, I've seen the war. I've seen Damien's face on the wall. I know who he is." Anyway, so that sort of conversation goes on like that. So she's absolutely spooked, this woman, and she's trying to suss stuff out, what's going on. And she drives to the military school where Damien is, and they're having an American football match on the ground. So she wants to go there to try and see him, to see if it's true, see if it's him. So she discovers and sees him playing football. He takes off his helmet, and she's in absolute shock. And she goes, "Oh my God, it's him." So then she sort of runs off into her car, and off she goes down the road. Now she goes for a little while down the road, then her car breaks down right in the middle of nowhere, while she's sort of chanting the Lord's Prayer as she's sort of driving, and she's sort of like, she's seen the devil as far as she's concerned, and so she's chanting the Lord's Prayer. Anyway, the car's broke down, and she gets out, and she sees that there's a little town not far from where the car is. So she goes to get her bag out of the car, looks up, and then there's a crow sitting on the roof of her car. And she looks into the eyes of the crow, and that terrifies her, and she runs off. And this crow flies after her, and then starts attacking her, pecking her in her head and her eyes and everything, and sort of pokes her eyes out. And she falls into the ditch by the road. And when the crow's done so much damage, she's blinded, the crow flies off. And then we see a big sort of like 18-wheeler truck coming down the road. And she sort of manages to get out the ditch, stumbles into the road, all blood down her face. And she gets, obviously, you can imagine, run over by the truck and killed horrendously. So it's all going again, just like the first one. All these people dying. That's all I'm going to tell you. At this moment, Damien is still unaware who he is. But I think, well, I know what happens, and I'm sure you do. You've probably all seen it. Obviously, the captain of the army is his disciple, and he's teaching him, and he tells him to look up in the Bible. You'll soon find out who you are. And it's a bit like the other film, you know, where we had Gregory Peck didn't believe it and stuff like that. It's the same here with William Holden, and eventually they come round, and the story sort of unfolds like that, with lots of different very violent killings in the film. It's very, very shocking, and the story is fantastic. You know, it's the continuation of the first. This is the rebirth of the Antichrist, and this is how it's been told. So what do I think of The Omen 2? It's incredible. It's incredible. It definitely is, to me, the greatest sequel to any other film made. You know, there's some amazing sequel to films, isn't there? Some amazing films, you know, but this one is on par, and a lot of people prefer it over the first one. I like it all the same. So to me, they're on the same par. The pluses of the film: the transfer looks amazing. It looks absolutely incredible. It's an incredible transfer. This was made in 1978, and it still looks amazing now. The cast is a stellar cast. It's one of the best casts ever formed for a horror movie. It's fantastic. The story is stronger than the first one. It's brilliant, and watching Damien sort of like come to terms with who he is fantastic. It's a great film. It's scary as hell. It's petrifying, and it's amazing. Yes, it's a little bit of a slow burn, but that's what makes it amazing. Negatives: 0. Essential watch: 10 out of 10 once again. 10 out of 10. I cannot give that any less. It's amazing. Damien, The Omen 2, 10 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you thought of it. It's brilliant. To me, it's perfect. The series is perfect. Such a great trilogy. Amazing films. Amazing. Guys, thank you for watching this review of The Omen 2. Check out some horror channels before my next video. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzawell, Cat Watches Horror, I Am the Ice Lord, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House, and of course Sarah of Horror. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.